Well, good morning. It is Thursday. I don't know what day it is, but just finished the gym. What? Yes, Thursday. It's Thursday, and I went to the gym. That's twice this week. It's feel good. I need to get back into shape. We're going to miss a trip next week, so I'm not going to worry about my weight, but I am going to start a weight loss. So I'm going to make Wednesdays eventually. It's going to be weigh-in Wednesday. So that's when I'll weigh in, and I'll keep you guys updated. And my goal, well, I'll let you know how much I weigh, and then I'll let you know what my goal is. But anyville, just dropped my son off at the high school so he could go to weight training. And today, what is today? I know I have to go to work, but last night we had our youth group, we met and we had a Bible study, and then one of the other, Tanya, who I watch, she said that she was reading John chapter 6, and I had mentioned to her that that was part of our lesson yesterday, was in John chapter 6, and she wanted to know more about it. So I told her that I would tell her, instead of writing it out, I told her that I would vlog about it today. So that's what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do that when I'm not driving, so that I can concentrate on that. So the next clip you see probably will be me talking about our lesson. So see you then. Hey there, I just wanted to comment on this heat that we're having on the East Coast. It is 11:43 and it is 92 degrees outside, but it feels like 110. That's some serious heat, folks. So the ones who are complaining about being too cold, I would be more than happy to hand this heat over to you guys, because it is hot, boys and girls. It is hot. Well, anyway, I am heading. Well, first off, believe it or not, I'm gonna go get a coffee, even in this heat. But I'm gonna go get a coffee, and then I'm gonna head down to the church, and probably then is when I'll tell our story from last night. But I wanted to share that with you guys so you can see how hot it is. So, and it's supposed to be worse tomorrow. They said that the record for today is 104, and they said that here in Maryland that we would not break that. Tomorrow's record is 101, and they said more likely we will break that. And then Saturday's temperature or record is 102, and they said it's a very good, strong possibility that we break that too. And that's just the temperature. That's not counting with the heat index and with the humidity and all that. So we are probably talking about temperatures of like 115, 120 degrees. That's pretty hot for anybody, anywhere. So stay cool. If you're on the East Coast, or if you're feeling this heat throughout, wherever you are, stay cool, stay hydrated, and be safe. Hey guys, alright, I've been in church for a while, but I decided I'd get a little bit of work done before I do this, and hopefully I won't get interrupted. If so, you'll see a quick stop of this video. Our talk last night, what I was saying earlier, our talk last night with the youth, and I told you that somebody else was talking from John chapter 6. And we did too, but I mean, we a little bit differently. We talked about, we started with John chapter 6, and well, first of all, technically, it really started back in Matthew when where it talks about where Jesus was picking his 12. I think Mark chapter 1, somewhere around 16 of chapter 1 of Mark. I said Matthew, but I meant Mark. Anywho, so it's where Jesus was picking his 12 disciples, and I asked the students, what if you were starting a new church, or what if you were starting a new movement for God? Who would you go after, and who would you pick? Would you pick the most popular? Would you pick the ones who got the money, or maybe they were politically connected? The movers and shakers, people that get things done, things like that. And then I changed gears with him, and I told him that, Jesus, when he picked his 12, he didn't pick those. You know, he didn't pick people with money. He didn't pick the movers and shakers. He didn't pick longtime friends. You know, another thing, would you pick your friends that you've known for a while that you know really good? He didn't pick those people. He didn't pick the educated people. He didn't pick the movers, like I said, movers and shakers. But that's the way he worked. That's the way he rolled. He went for those that were different. He used a whole different criteria. So we talked about that for a while, and I brought up I brought up what Abraham did. You know, he had 12 sons, 10 from the ugly wife Leah, 2 from the pretty wife Rachel, and they teamed up and all that. But you know, they were, if you go back and read all that, they were a little weird bunch. They weren't together. So I mean, obviously, you know, 10 of the brothers, for the most part, sold Joseph. Well, not for the most part, but they were all involved. So 10 of the brothers sold Joseph into slavery. And then Moses, you know, he only really had a team of 1, which was his brother Aaron. But if you think about it, Moses' father-in-law said, "Look, if you ever want to sleep with my wife again," of course, this is my illustration, but it's basically you're spending so much time doing the ministry and things like that you're not seeing your wife, that you need to delegate some of his work. And he did. He got some judges, which ultimately, you know, didn't work out anyway. And then, of course, David, you know, he wasn't good at team building either. I mean, he had one really close friend, was Jonathan, but he and most of us were just his leaders, his generals who led and won battles. But even at the end, he couldn't do anything because his hands and his general all that had bloody hands, so he couldn't even help build the temple or build. So we talked about that Jesus spent 40 days and he prayed and with fasting and prayer and through all the temptations, he realized that he's got to go his own way. So that's why he didn't pick any of those people. He didn't pick any of those people that were connected, which I asked the teenagers to do. From that point on, we talked about different arguments, and that's when we got into near the end where we talked about John, and we talked about where John got involved. Not got involved, but I'm going over my notes just to make sure I don't say anything wrong, because one thing I'm pretty good about, or try to anyway, is never to speak out of context, because I never want to mess up God's word. Yeah, so I just want to make sure that I'm all on the same page. But we got to the point where we talked about, it says in John chapter 6, verse 50, starting at verse 53, Jesus said to them, "Verily, verily, I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. For my flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink." And I asked the students about that, and what does that mean? Does it mean, are we cannibals? We're supposed to eat them? And so we talked about that and how it really meant spiritually and what you had to do, Because here's the thing: at the beginning of John chapter 6, what's the first thing that happened in that chapter? Jesus feeds 5,000 from five loaves, two fishes. What? 5,000. That's not counting. That's only counting the men. That's not counting the children and the wives. So that's pretty. That was amazing, and people saw this. Obviously, over 5,000 people saw this. What's the next thing he did? He went to the disciples. He walked on water. Dude, if I'm out there and I saw someone walking on water, you have a tendency, it's like, man, I want to follow this guy because I want to see the next miracle he does. Then he changed this whole subject later, like I said, what I just read, and he knew that people weren't going to follow him. People were following him for the wrong reasons, and they weren't. He knew it. He knew their heart. So that's why he said, "You need to eat my flesh and you drink my blood," because they know back in Leviticus that was forbidden. You weren't supposed to do those things. But that's what they were thinking. They weren't thinking spiritually. And what happened? Well, in verse 56 of John, it says, from this time, many of the disciples turned back and they no longer followed him. And then he came out. And that's deep enough. But then he comes back and says, "Look, all right, you guys, you're going to follow me? You have a choice." What does he tell the disciples? That says in verses 67 through 69. And which is the great thing about God. We all have a choice. You can be with him and all that, but understand there is no middle ground with God. You either you're all in or you're not in, And I think a lot of times here's a word that I told them last night. I really don't like to say this word Christian. And here's the reason why. I think the word Christian is overused. They say that America is a Christian nation. No, it's not. And if you remember, if you've been in Bible studies and Bible classes and all that, and you hear these things, but way back in the day, you would hear the word religious. Are you a religious person? And they would say, no, I'm a Christian. And those were a separation. For the most part, they generally knew there was a difference there. But today, everyone, for the most part, I come in contact with says they're a Christian. And it's so overused, and I think it's the reason why a lot of people aren't following Jesus the way that they need to follow Jesus. So I purposely am not crazy about the word Christian. I like to use the word, I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a believer, or whatever it is that I want to say, but it's not the word Christian because it's so overstated. You may not agree with me or not, but that's my take on it, and that's what I think of it. It's not going to stop me from getting into heaven either way, whether you agree or disagree, but that's just me. So, but the thing about it is, there is still no middle ground with God. I heard one person say one time that if you're riding the fence, then you're on the devil's side. You're on the wrong side because you can't ride it. God either says you're all in or not, and that's what he was saying in this. Either you're going to follow me full-heartedly and do the things I want you to do, or you're not. So at the very core of this whole thing, I told him that for Jesus to create a new movement that will really change things, he knew that people couldn't just follow him on the surface. They had to be willing to go all the way. And it was cultural, countercultural to what was going on. And it is today when we go against the world. And one of the last things I was telling them is that, we can't keep doing the way it is. We need to get out of our comfort and the way it is, and we need to change that and change that radically. And sometimes that means stepping on toes. Sometimes that means getting in your friend's face. Sometimes it means getting in your boss's face for the kingdom of God, not to be disrespectful in any other way. So I closed it with these 4 questions to them, and I wanted to think about that. What is Jesus asking us to do? The second question is, what isn't he asking each of us to do? The third is, what is the first step that you're going to take to get to this point? And then the last question was, when will you take the first step? So that was this topic we had, and I saw their faces; they were thinking about it, and I didn't make any public, hey, raise your hand if you decided to do that, because that's between them and God, and I want them to do it because they want to, not because they see their friends or somebody else doing it. So that was our study, Tanya. That was what we talked about. Hopefully now you get a little better understanding where I came from with that. A lot of words. I'm not very good at long speeches like that. So that may be it for today. I have a business meeting tonight. I just don't like meetings in general. I'm not going to say more than that because I don't know who's going to watch this. But I don't like meetings in general. So anywhoville, that may be it for today. Hot. It was already 107 on the heat index, so it's getting there, but I'm in an air-conditioned building, so I'm cool. Alright guys, probably nothing else, I don't know. If not, hope you guys had a great day. See ya.